What's the most powerful language in human history? English? Not even number one. Mandarin? More native speakers, but that's not the answer either. Arabic? Getting closer. What about Latin? Now we're talking. Because the most powerful language isn't necessarily the one spoken by the most people. It's the language that changes other languages. The language that crosses borders, survives empires, transforms science, law, religion, business, and culture, and leaves words inside people's mouths centuries after the empire that spread them has disappeared. So today, we're ranking 5 of history's most powerful languages, and number 1 has been influencing the way millions of us speak for more than 2,000 years. Number 5. Spanish. Starting at number 5, Spanish is one of the world's most widely spoken languages, with hundreds of millions of native speakers. But its global influence didn't happen overnight. To understand it, we have to travel back more than 500 years. During the rise of the Spanish Empire, Spanish spread across huge portions of the Americas, the Caribbean, and beyond. Ships crossed the Atlantic carrying soldiers, settlers, missionaries, administrators, and their language. Spanish became deeply established throughout much of Central and South America, and that expansion often came at a devastating cost. Indigenous languages were frequently marginalized, suppressed, or displaced as colonial institutions imposed Spanish. But Spanish didn't simply change the places where it became dominant. It also exchanged vocabulary with the languages it encountered. And English speakers use Spanish-derived words constantly. Mosquito, tornado, plaza, rodeo, canyon, cargo. You may speak English, but pieces of Spanish are already hiding inside your vocabulary. And centuries after the Spanish Empire declined, Spanish kept growing. Today, it stretches across continents and continues to evolve. But if Spanish is only number 5, things are about to get much bigger. Number 4. French. Imagine walking into the royal courts of Europe several centuries ago. Kings, queens, diplomats, scientists, philosophers, and aristocrats. Even when French wasn't their native language, many educated elites learned it. From roughly the 17th through 19th centuries, French became extraordinarily important in European diplomacy, intellectual life, and elite culture. Treaties were negotiated in it, books were written in it, courts communicated through it. But here's where French becomes really important. English itself was transformed by French. After the Norman conquest of England in 1066, varieties of French became languages of England's ruling elites. Over centuries, enormous amounts of French vocabulary entered English. Government, justice, court, army, beauty, fashion, dinner. These words tell the story of centuries of contact. English remained a Germanic language, but its vocabulary was permanently transformed. And French didn't stop in Europe. Colonial expansion carried it into Africa, North America, the Caribbean, Asia, and the Pacific. Today, French remains an official language across numerous countries and an important international language. But even that isn't enough for the top 3. Number 3. Arabic. And this is where things get incredible. Beginning in the 7th century, Arabic expanded far beyond the Arabian Peninsula alongside the rise of Islamic states and civilization. But Arabic wasn't only the language of political power. It became enormously important in religion, law, trade, literature, philosophy, medicine, mathematics, and science. During the medieval Islamic Golden Age, scholars working in Arabic translated, preserved, criticized, and expanded knowledge inherited from Greek, Persian, Indian, and other traditions. They made major contributions to mathematics, astronomy, optics, medicine, geography, and philosophy. And some of the evidence is hiding inside English. Algebra, algorithm, alcohol, admiral, tariff. These English words have histories connected to Arabic, and the influence becomes even stronger in languages that had centuries of contact with Arabic. Even the numeral system used internationally today reached medieval Europe partly through Arabic language mathematical scholarship, although its deeper origins lie in India. Think about that. Every time you write, you're participating in a mathematical tradition transmitted across civilizations. Arabic didn't simply spread words, it helped transmit knowledge. But number 2 took globalization to another level. Number 2. English. Wait, English isn't number 1? Today, English may be the closest thing humanity has to a global common language. Hundreds of millions speak it natively, while many hundreds of millions more use it as a second or additional language. Walk into an international airport? English. Open scientific journals? English dominates many fields. International business? English. Hollywood? English language entertainment reaches audiences across the planet. Popular music? Again, English is enormously influential. The internet accelerated this even further. Words like internet, software, email, smartphone, streaming, selfie, and countless others spread internationally, often being borrowed or adapted by other languages. So, how did a language that began on an island off Europe's coast become this powerful? First came centuries of political, economic, and colonial expansion under the British Empire. At its height, British rule and influence stretched around the globe. English became embedded in government, education, commerce, and administration in many territories. Then came the 20th century. The United States emerged as an economic, military, scientific, technological, and cultural superpower. Movies traveled. Music traveled. Technology traveled. Corporations traveled. And English traveled with them. Today, English has an extraordinary global reach. So, surely, that makes it number 1, right? Not on this ranking, because we're measuring influence across history, not simply dominance today. And there's one language whose shadow has stretched across Europe and beyond for more than 2 millennia. Number 1. Latin. More than 2,000 years ago, Latin spread alongside one of history's most influential civilizations, Rome. Roman soldiers carried it. Administrators governed with it. Merchants traded with it. Writers recorded history with it. As Roman power expanded, Latin became deeply established across much of Western Europe. Then, something extraordinary happened. The Western Roman Empire collapsed, but Latin didn't disappear. Instead, everyday spoken Latin changed differently from region to region over centuries. Eventually, those varieties developed into languages including Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, and other Romance languages. Think about what that means. Latin didn't simply influence these languages, they descended from it. Rome disappeared as an empire in the West, but its language transformed and survived inside millions of people's everyday speech. And that's only the beginning. Latin remained extraordinarily important in Western Europe long after Rome's political collapse. For centuries, it was used by the Catholic Church. Universities taught in Latin. Scholars communicated in Latin. Scientists published in Latin. Lawyers filled legal systems with Latin expressions. Even Isaac Newton's famous Principia was published in Latin. Rome's armies disappeared centuries ago, but Latin-derived words are still coming out of our mouths. Arabic scholarship still echoes through scientific vocabulary. Spanish connects communities across continents. And English continues spreading through technology and global culture. Because armies can conquer land, but languages conquer time. And sometimes, the most powerful thing an empire leaves behind isn't a monument. It's a word.